All right, it's the man with no socks leading you to action again. I'm Italian, the hence no socks. All right, it's time to take action. And how many of you were here yesterday? Can you please raise your hand? Okay, so you all know how this is going to work. Very quickly, I'm going to remind you of how you can take action. It's through connections that you might have, it's through financial support, or it's through in-kind support, giving you skills, giving your time. And there's the old-fashioned way, you can just raise your hand, or there is the more technological way, if you want, where you can actually think about it, and you can go on the delegate portal, which is delegates at .trustconference.com. On the site, you'll see all the actions listed. You can select the action you want. That will give you an explanation of the action itself, and it will give you a preloaded set of actions that you can actually take, and they range from communication support, financial support, introductions, and so on and forth. Or you can actually personalize the action that you want to take by inserting your email address, and the details will be passed directly to the organization. Now, before we delve in, and I'm cautious of time, I just want to show you one image. This is a picture that was taken last night as the Kranti girls were watching the Kranti action. And as you can see, there's a lot of them. There's a full room. That's the Kranti house. And they were clearly watching the action that moved many of you to tears yesterday, listening from Robin. And as Monique said, we have support from Kranti. Is continuing to coming, and somebody watching the live stream yesterday has told us that they would be willing to connect Kranti with a very wealthy family in India, which is already endorsing a number of organizations supporting children. So we made that connection. We'll keep you posted, and fingers crossed, Kranti will be able to receive a safe house very quickly. So thank you also for those who are watching online, which is clearly making an impact as well. Okay, let's go to the first action of today. It's an action that really builds on the topic of today's first panel, the one literally exploring the link between migration and vulnerability. And as we all know, we are currently witnessing the largest displacement of people in modern history, but we are also witnessing the fastest rise of digital technology. So as a result, many refugees might not have a passport, they might not have a job permit, but guess what? They do have a mobile phone. So how can we use the power of technology to empower refugees to get an income? Presenting the first action today is Chris Mikkelsen, who's the co-founder of RefUnite. Welcome, Chris.
Good evening. I know it's late. Thank you much to those who stayed. I hope we'll make it worth your while. It's been a great day, and I'm honored to be here among such wonderful peers. About a decade ago, my brother David and I ran into a young Afghan refugee named Mansour who had fled the Taliban with his 7 family members and made it to Pakistan, from where a human trafficker separated the entire family and sent Mansour at the age of 12 off on a journey on his own that culminated in Scandinavia about 4 months later. He was 12, the oldest of the family members, but cast into a situation that I could not even imagine undergoing myself. We met him 5 years later and heard how he'd lost track of his family, and offered to help him find out what had happened to his loved ones, and began working with the established institutions and pleaded our case, and met with lots of goodwill and especially open arms to come try and help us to find out what had happened to them, but at the same time also a difficulty in actually getting to the core of what we're looking for, the persons in the midst of 42.5 million refugees at this point who could be anywhere in the world. And my brother and I were struck about the fact that there seemed to be little technology, there seemed to be little interconnectivity and interoperability between the different organizations and how they could collect and curate and distribute data on the missing and help them reconnect. So we ended up ourselves tracking down Mansour's one younger brother, Parwin, found him through tracking down the trafficker that shipped him out, and located him in the south of Russia in a city called Stavropol, and managed to physically reunite the two in October 2005. And for us as two brothers, having witnessed this, we moved forward and said, there's got to be a better way. And it led us to create RefUnite as a digital mobile-driven platform that helps families reconnect with those they've lost track of. And the pivoting or tipping point for us became starting to work in East Africa on getting into the camps and seeing that everybody had access to mobile phones. And from there, understood that the true democratizing aspect in this was suddenly the access to information everybody could get. The force multiplier was the people themselves. And from there, we pivoted from the perspective of building top-down channels that could help us gather information, and instead unleashed platforms in partnership with mobile operators that have now helped us operate in more than 25 countries, seen us bring more than 1.2 million refugees onto the platform, and have reunited, or reconnected rather, tens of thousands of family members over the past 5-6 years. The ethos that we built RefUnite on and that we continue to push is that a life worth living is a life of dignity. It is a life that's driven by choice and by decisions you make for yourself and your family, and it's important that the reliance is driven forward. And from this, we really viewed the point that refugees often not only lose their families, not only lose their origins, their histories, but are relegated to losing their futures as well. I've seen people wait for years and years, always in line for a question or an answer that could be answered easily if they had access to the right points. But since they're in the grips of other people who are overburdened, as every aid worker is in every place, they still wait. And there's really the drive behind this that led us to create the next venture that I'm about to tell you. And I'll start it with this. I'm sure all of you have gotten to a website, and with the website thinking you're a bot, you're presented with 9 or 12 tiles, and it asks you to click on the links or the tiles that have a fire hydrant or a car in it or what have you. And the reality of this is the reason they do that is because AI is not as intelligent yet as we'd like for it to be, to the point where it can handle complex tasks like sequencing a human genome. But when you get down to the brass tacks of it, and you have to do sort of maniacal tasks, which is exactly identifying fuzzy pictures or images in that, it falls short. So what you're doing when you're clicking on those tiles is that, one, you're proving you're not a bot, but at the same time, you're also training the algorithm of the company to better be able to identify these objects in images. That in itself is a multi-billion-dollar industry, where the race to the top is won by the companies that has access to the best data. And that data still requires human eyes. It still requires human interventions. And it struck us that there would be a way for us to engender a self-reliance that would go beyond taking just action on finding your family, but building a future, really, in creating an income stream for yourself. So what we're currently doing is taking the process of these millions, billions, and trillions of images that need to be processed over the next decade or more, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and we're distributing it into our network and bringing it to the point where we're helping, especially refugee women to begin with, to a stage where they can sit in the safety of their huts, their homes, and they can help us categorize these images. And by a force of working at 3 hours to 4 hours a day, we're currently seeing them being able to come up to the stage of earning $3 to $4. $3 to $4 in a country like Uganda, where we're present, is about 200% to 300% increase of what they're currently earning, and is putting them within the reach of, to give you a great frame of reference, the point of a childbirth in a private clinic in a refugee camp in Uganda is costing about $11. So a transformative shift in how they live, a transformative shift in how we can provide them with a foundation to not only earn at this current stage, but to learn and get a foothold into the digital economy that now, starting with 5,000 people, we're pushing towards, hopefully, and with the help of people in this room and beyond, getting to a stage of, over the next 2 years, have 25,000 refugee women, men in an income operating opportunity, and getting them to be able to build their lives as they move forward. The help that we're asking for is really those of you in the audience that either work for data companies, are connected to data companies, have the opportunity to connect us to the people that need to have their information annotated and where we can help. We're not asking for charity. We're asking for opportunity. We're asking for human agency, and give this point onwards to people who need it way more than sending this off to a nondescript IT company somewhere to make one person rich instead of making an entire village better off. Core funding, always needed. help with the legal frameworks now that we're building this in Uganda, which is a country that has incredible labor laws for refugees, but unfortunately is one of the only places in the world allowing people to actually earn for themselves. We have payment networks, and we certainly have, as always, the hardworking people within the NGOs that can help us bring this forward on ground and help us navigate the many troubles that we're going to go through as we scale this from 5 to 25,000, hopefully beyond that, into the hundreds of thousands or millions of people. That's it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Tony.
So just for the sake of clarity, I want to show some of the pictures that you're referring to, because I'm sure those are pictures that we're all familiar with. And these are the images that we ask to select manually when we are buying something online, where we are registering an account, just to prove that we're not exactly a robot. Actually, there's a human being behind the machine. How many pictures are there to be filed? I mean, what kind of size of business are we talking about here?
I'm trying to get the answer to that. The best I can get to is that we're looking at least a decade with trillions and trillions of images that need to be processed not just once but multiple times. So for an algorithm to recognize that it is indeed a bottle of water in the picture, we're going to show them 25,000 different pictures of bottles, and we're going to have 10,000 people process the same images to get to a degree of accuracy where we can say that indeed this represents a bottle.
So huge volumes, clearly.
Huge volume.
When it comes to the payment of the refugees, that's an issue that was obviously discussed this morning earlier on the panel. In most states, they're not allowed to work, and let alone to be paid. They don't have bank accounts. How are you paying them?
So in Uganda, we do have a few good avenues, as some might here be aware of. Mobile airtime is really a tradable commodity in most of the economies that we operate in. So I can sell you 20 megabytes for 5 shillings, and that's how we go about skipping across the fact that we may not even have an M-Pesa account. M-Pesa is a highly useful mobile money system, especially in East Africa, where currently more than 25% of Kenya's GDP is transacted between people that have phones but no bank accounts. So, as is always the case, where you have human ingenuity, and this is the exact point I'm trying to make, is, again, coming away from the perspective of charity and moving toward the perspective of opportunity. Where you have humans, you're going to find ingenuity. And the real task for us is not really to give them handouts, it is to provide them a handout of opportunity to find their ways how they can scale their own existence.
Terrific. Okay, so let's get you some support. Let's recap what you need: tech support and tech partners, especially on data annotations, and experts in digital payment solutions. We also need pro bono lawyers willing to provide a legal framework for the project so that this can be scaled beyond Uganda, NGOs to build on the projects and liaise with local governments, and obviously financial support. So before we open up to the room, I just want to let you know that we've been approached by Deep Brain Chain, which is a company willing to commit to data annotation for 200 refugees for 6 months. So we're starting well here.
Very well, thank you.
So we also need tech partners. Any tech partner in the room? Let's go to Julia over there.
Hi, Chris. It's a great cause. I love the idea and the mate-up between the technology and the refugees. I'm with Dun & Bradstreet. We have the world's largest B2B database. We provide tens of thousands of opinions per day to businesses looking to choose which suppliers and which customers they want to form relationships with. Right now, we're innovating heavily in bringing ethical risk into that decision-making process. But in response to the ask, I think we would maybe fall into the helping you find additional partnerships with companies for annotation. We'd love to give you access to our database and to our services so that you can find those companies that you can maybe take this message to and see if they would be able to avail of your services.
Thank you. Thank you. Is someone else, number 3.
Hello, hi. Chris, you probably know me. We've worked together. I'm the founder of Mallet Labs. We provided part of the technology that runs right now in Uganda. And I can only really express that we'll carry on doing so and probably double down on our efforts in building the technology and the machine learning needed to move this forward quickly.
Thank you. So clearly good endorsement for the work that you've been doing in Uganda. So clearly it's paying off. Any other support from the room, for pro bono lawyers in the room that are willing to provide support for the action of RefUnite or any of the other issues highlighted here? Not yet. Okay, we'll wait to see what's happening through the digital portal. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with the rest. We'll stay in touch.
Love it.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Antonio.
Thank you.